Now you remember, when we say Qur'an and Natiq, we are talking about the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, right? But then we have these other narrated traditions which say that the Shia of the Ahlul Bayt are from their teenat, from their essence. And the true Shia, obviously we are believers, but the true Shia are like the higher levels, the Shuhada, the Ulama, right? The true Shia, they are a toned down version of Quran and Natiq. They are themselves like their Imams, similar to their Imams, but at a lower level. Because the path towards God is one path. Siratul Mustaqim, there's only one path. You're following the path of Amirul Mu'mineen. They're not parallel paths, that Amirul Mu'mineen has a different path, the Prophet of Islam has a different path, and you're like in another path. This is a concept of the Jews. They have the Gentiles, the others, and then the beloved nation or the higher nation. But in Islam, no, it's one path. It all goes towards Tawheed. So you're always behind the Ahlul Bayt, because it is from them that you're getting your spiritual sustenance. So you're always behind them. And then their progress is in light years, to say metaphorically. But you're in the same path, right? So this narration tells you that a youngster can become Quran and Natiq at a lower level, right? And we saw this. Like, this isn't something that is stories in our time. We saw this. Read the books about Sizda Saliha, the 13-year-old Shohada. Read the book called Arifane, I think it's called. That young child who was in Tehran, who used to pray, and his prayer would be between the roof of the mosque and the floor. He wouldn't be on the floor. And this is something that a mujtahid, I've forgotten the name of the alim, he witnessed himself. And then you had people like Ayatollah Jawadi Amoli, that when they visited the front during the 8-year war, they were sitting next to a young soldier, and this soldier wanted to, if I remember the story correctly, this soldier wanted to perform wuzu, but the place where there was water was within the range of enemy fire. But this child insisted. He said, I wanted to perform wuzu. And all the ulama there, they tried to explain to him, this, this tayammum is jais here, tayammum is allowed. This is a situation in fiqh where tayammum is allowed. And he wouldn't answer. And in the end, he said, this is my last prayer. I want it through wuzu. And then he just went off. And they thought, well, it's just a child. He's emotional. And he prays. And then when he returns safely. He returns safely, and then he is martyred. And if I remember correctly, Ayatollah Jawadi Amoli, he goes to because they brought the body back, and he goes to the body and he says, Jawadi dars bikhun, Jawadi falsafe bikhun, Jawadi usul bikhun, ina rasidan tumundi. I can't translate this, inshallah. The brothers ask, those who don't understand Persian, ask the other brothers. So that is what a young child can become. That is the amount of energy that a child has. Now the Quran rectifies your thinking process, gives you the foundation blocks of thinking correctly, and allows you to make correct decisions in your life that lead towards comprehensive holistic success. Now, just an example of how this happens. Conventional values and the conventional social system that we have, at many times, it just contradicts Islamic values. For example, look into our own lives. If someone approaches me right here, right now, and disrespects me, even at the slightest, right? Me with this garb and this, amama, I come in here, and for example, someone sitting right next to the door doesn't say, Assalamu alaikum hajar. I somewhere within myself, I feel offended, right? This is impolite, this is impolite. This boy hasn't learned etiquette in the Hawza. What is this? This is a crisis of the Hawza. Many of us are like this, right? We start criticizing this. This is a crisis of the Hawza. The Hawza does not teach akhlaq, right? And then throughout Dua Kumail, I'm sitting thinking about how to rectify the hawza. Right? But when you look at the Quran and the Sunnah, because this is one package, right? When I'm talking about the Quran, I'm talking about the entire package of the Sakalain, the two weighty things, inseparable. The Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they tell us to practice this practice. Whenever we are talking about the Mu'mineen, they say, whenever one of the Mu'mineen somehow disrespects you or does something that is not favorable to you, ihmil akhaka sab'ina hamla. Bring into your mind 70, and 70 is adadul qasra in Arabic. Bring into your mind multiple excuses for that brother of you. And what is that? What is that practice for? It's for convincing yourself, right? It is an internal practice which is designed to rectify your internal value system, your internal operating system. It's like your antivirus working and saying, oh, I found 20 corrupted files and I have removed them. Right? When the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they tell you that you are not from amongst us if you do not do muhasibah before, accountability before sleeping at night. Right? This again is your antivirus working, trying to rectify your thought process. Right? And as I said, many of our conventional values are of this sort. You must have heard if people who are living here, like, we have like a few bad incidents with our local brothers, and then we say, oh, this nation, this is like this and like that. And we say the same thing about our own nations as well. Like, especially because I'm from Pakistan, whenever we talk about Pakistan, oh, Pakistanis are, this and that. This colonial mindset that the British have placed into our souls. Right? So we are never doing husn zan when it comes to our own brothers, but sometimes it's very strange. We do husn zan about the enemies. I mentioned last time, like when you talk to people, when I go back to Pakistan, sometimes in my own extended family, I talk about how West, the new barbaric anti-civilization of the West, and at its helm, the United States of America, how they are the enemies of humanity, not just the Muslims, the enemies of humanity. And they look at you astonished. Americans, those, as the leader of the Islamic Revolution said, some people think of them like gentlemen. They're so nicely dressed with their cologne and their perfume and always saying please and thank you. See, this is, while the Quran, how stern is the Quran about people of disbelief? And we're not talking about common people, we're talking about the leaders, obviously. We're talking about those leaders of international Zionism who are the enemies of humanity in general. So, the Quran, I believe, and what I've understood from the works of the ulama, the Quran is a mechanism designed by God, designed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which if used properly will rectify, rebuild, reconstitute the very framework of your mind. But it requires for you and me to realize that we need this sort of rectification. May Allah allow us to use the Quran in the manner that it is truly designed to be used, and to rectify our minds and to rectify our thought process so that we may be able to worship God as truly is according to His pleasure. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala dua. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج والعافية والنصر ومن علينا برضاه والدعاء واجعلنا وأولادنا وذريتنا جميعا من أحسن أعوانه وأنصاره والمستشهدين بين يديه وإن لم نكن أهلا لذلك ولكن أنت أهل لذلك يا أكرم الأكرمين يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم احفظ قائدنا وعلماءنا الحق ومجاهدين في سبيل الله والثورة الإسلامية والمقاومة الإسلامية إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات وتاب بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات. اللهم اجعل عواقب أمورنا خيرا. ربنا لا تكلنا على أنفسنا طرفة عين أبدا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.